Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and Tim and doing a 6 Samurai deck profile. So you guys have been requesting this one like crazy on the channel, and I am super excited to deliver this one because this is one of my favorite decks of all time. This deck is a super cool fun deck that basically speeds through the deck almost like Infernity does now, with Gateway of the 6 being at 1. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can become part of the notification squad. Definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below because we have some really cool rewards for you guys, like getting a signed card, getting your name description of every single video, or getting to request a deck profile every single month that you are a patron. So let's get straight on this. So without further ado, let's do this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Legendary 6 Samurai Kizan. And I have to say, every time I look at this mat and do this deck profile, it makes me think of Team Samurai X1. So I have to give a quick shout out to Team Samurai, guys. So definitely, if you haven't watched their channel, which you probably have if you're here, definitely shout out to them. So basically what this card does is Legendary 6 Samurai Kizan's effect is if you control a 6 Samurai monster, you can special summon this card in your hand. That is not once per turn. You can special summon this card as many times as you have 6 Samurai Kizans. So it is a really good card. And if you control 2 or more 6 Samurai monsters, this card gains 300 attack and defense. Then we play 3 copies of Grandmaster of the 6, which is actually Old Man Kizan. If you look at the lore, this is actually Kizan in the older form because they go through 3 different generations, which is kind of neat. Of the 6 Samurais, you have the Legendary 6 Samurais, which is kind of like the young ones. Then you have the Legendary 6 Samurais, which is the original ones. And then you have, or the secrets are the oldest ones. The regular 6 Samurais are the middle generation. And then the Legendary ones are the, like the old school ones, which is really, really cool. But basically this card lets you special summon it from your hand, kind of like Kizan, but you can only control 1 6 Samurai Grandmaster, which is kind of cool. And if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you get to target 6 Samurai monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So that's a really cool effect. So if like your opponent Solemn Judgments it, I don't know why they would, but if they did Solemn Judgment this card, then you can instantly just add a 6 Samurai monster from your graveyard to your hand. But the really neat reason that we play 3 of this, even though you can only control 1 of it, is because if you do have multiple copies of this and you link it away, then basically you're just trying to get multiple copies of this card to special summon, so you can just link away cards and do stuff like that. 3 copies of Legendary 6 Samurai Kaigeki. Kaigeki special summon, or when it's normal summon, you can special summon a level 4 or lower 6 Samurai monster from your hand. And then while you control 6 Samurai monster with a different name, it gains 1500 attack. Really good effect with this card, but you really only need it at this particular ratio at 3, because when you normal summon it, you just instantly get special summon something like Mizuho or Shinai, and then follow it up with a Mizuho or a Shinai. Then we play 3 copies of Legendary 6 Samurai Mizuho. Mizuho has the ability that if you control Shinai, then you can special summon it from your hand, and then you can treat a monster on your side of the field, and then target a card on your opponent's field and destroy it, which is pretty cool. 3 copies of Shinai. Shinai's ability is that if you control Mizuho, then you can special summon it from your hand. If you attribute it, you target a 6 Samurai monster except another Shinai and add it to your hand, which is pretty cool to add something back like a copy of Legendary 6 Samurai Kizan, Grandmaster, something like that can special summon itself. Then we play a single copy of Secret 6 Samurai Kizaru. Kizaru can be special summoned, and when it's special summoned, you get to add a 6 Samurai monster from your deck to your hand. That is a different attribute from all the 6 Samurai monsters that you control, which is pretty cool. And then it also has the ability that would be if a 6 Samurai monster would be destroyed by an effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. 1 copy of Hatsume. Hatsume is a really good 6 Samurai as well, because if she's on the field, you can banish 2 6 Samurai monsters from your graveyard and or from your field, and then target 1 6 Samurai monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Which could be a Legendary 6 Samurai Shien. It could be something else that you have in the graveyard that you might need, or anything that you might want to summon. And if exactly 1 6 Samurai monster you control and no other cards will be destroyed by card effect, you can banish from the graveyard instead. Then we play a single copy of the Legendary Secret of the 6 Samurai. Legendary Secret is a really good card in here, because what Legendary Secret does is when you normal or special summon a Secret 6 Samurai monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then it also has the ability that once per turn, you can banish 1 level 4 or lower 6 Samurai monster from your graveyard until the end phase this card's attack, level, and attribute becomes the same as the banished monster. We play 1 copy of Great Shogunshin, because only letting your opponent activate 1 spell or trap per turn is really good when we're trying to go off with this deck. And special summoning it to your side of the field is extremely easy just by controlling 2 6 Samurai monsters. 1 copy of Secret Six Samurai Fuma. The Fuma is really good because it's a tuna. And I know I make that joke every time I do this deck profile, but it's still funny. But what this card does is if it's destroyed by battle, then you can special summon a Secret Six Samurai monster from your deck. And then if exactly 1 Six Samurai is going to be destroyed and no other cards would be destroyed, you banish this graveyard instead. Then for the final monster we play, I play a single copy of Xian's Squire. I know that's kind of weird, but it's really easy to summon in this deck because you can summon it off of a lot of different cards. And plus, if you summon this card, then you can synchro for Naturia Beast, which is really nice to be able to do just to negate those spells on the field. So that's it for all of the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn because it's a really good extender in the deck and really helps you out with getting more plays. 1 copy of World Legacy Succession. World Legacy Succession is another really good Monster Reborn-ish card that lets you special summon to a zone and link monster points to. I usually want to get this card later in the game because if I get it later in the game by drawing it off of like a Yugioh or something like that, I can just immediately special summon one of my 6 Samurais from the graveyard and start going off with Bushido counters. 1 copy of Reinforcements of the Army. Rhoda lets me add any of my monsters from my deck to my hand because they're all warriors except for the Grandmaster or the Shogun Xian because those are level 4 or higher. 3 copies of Xian's Smoke Signal lets me add any level 3 or lower 6 Samurai monster from my deck to my hand, which is going to be your copies of your Shinai Mizuho, your Hatsume, your copies of Kaigeki to your hand, which is going to be still pretty beneficial. 1 copy of Gateway of the Six. I know you guys were waiting for that one, but Gateway of the Six is kind of like the Infernity Archfiend of this deck if you guys watch my Infernity deck profile. But basically, Gateway of the Six is the enabler for the entire deck. So basically what this card does is each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal or special summon, you place 2 Bushido counters on this card. You can remove Bushido counters from this card to activate these effects. 2, you target a 6 Samurai monster or Xian monster, and that target gains 500 attack. You're never going to activate that effect. 4, add a 6 Samurai monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is the one you're going to use all the time. Or 6, target a Xian monster in your grave and special summon that target. That comes up every so often if your Shogun Xian needs to be linked away and you need to get it back. That does come up sometimes. It's real awkward, but sometimes it happens. Then we play 3 copies of Xian's Dojo. Xian's Dojo basically just holds those counters for us to be able to use with the Gateway of the Six, because it doesn't matter where you remove the tokens for some reason, you just remove the tokens off of something. Xian's Dojo also has the effect of each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal or special summon, you place a Bushido counter on this card, and then you can send this card from your field to the graveyard to special summon a 6 Samurai monster or a Xian monster from your main deck whose level is less than or equal to the total number of Bushido counters on this card. Then we play 3 copies of 6 Samurai United. 6 Samurai United is kind of like Pot of Greed. Basically what this card does is it lets us draw those additional cards by sending this card to the graveyard and having the ability of each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal or special summoned, you get to place a Bushido counter on this card, which is really, really beneficial because getting those additional Bushido counters on this card is super, super helpful to be able to get those additional draws off. To be able to draw 2 cards is super nice sometimes because sometimes you just need to extend, and that is what this card helps us do. And being able to remove those counters, you usually remove them off of this card first and then remove them off your gateway because this can only hold 2. Then I play 3 copies of Temple of the Six. This card gets obscene in this deck because it doesn't matter how many counters it has. If you can get a Temple of the Six and a Gateway of the Six and a Xian's Dojo, you are literally never going to run out of tokens because every time you normal summon or special summon a 6 Samurai, you're putting 4 counters on the field. So that's why I play the Temple of the Six as well. And it just works so well. You're just going to infinitely loop your opponent, and it doesn't matter what they do, you're going to win. I mean, if they can't stop the loop, you're going to win. Each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal or special summon, you put a Bushido counter on this card, and every time for every Bushido counter that this card has, those opponent's monsters lose 100 attack. I have gotten hundreds of counters on this card, and they lose thousands of attack points, and it's ridiculous. You get to the point where your opponent can't even summon a monster that has any more than 0 attack, and it's just like, oh, well, I can't play anymore. Cool. Then we play, for the last 3 cards in the main deck, we play 3 copies of Call by the Grave, because Call by the Grave is super helpful in this deck, because basically what you're doing with the Call by the Grave is you're making it so your opponent can't stop your negate, or can't stop you with hand traps and stuff like that, like Droll, Ash Blossoms, your copies of Ghost Ogre, stuff like that, they cannot stop you, except with cards like Infinite Impermanence doesn't stop this deck because Gateway. Cards like, the only thing that stops me is if they hit the Gateway. If they hit the Gateway, it's over with. Unless I already have an established field, and then I don't care. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing just a single copy of Xian. You only really need one Xian. Basically what this card does is it negates a spell or trap once per turn, and then you can negate the activation if you destroy it, and then if this card would be destroyed, you can destroy another face-up 6 Samurai monster you control instead. One copy of Shadow of the 6 Samurai Xian. Basically this is just here for the name because you can overlay into it with 2 Kizans, go into this card, and it counts as a name, so you get an extra 2 Bushido counters. It's kind of neat to be able to do that. I really like to be able to do that. One copy of Rihan. Rihan's kind of not super rare to make in this deck anymore. I used to not make Rihan that much, but I make it all the time now. Because basically what you do is you send the above cards you control to the graveyard with 3 monsters with different attributes that are 6 Sams. And then once per turn you can banish a 6 Samurai monster from your hand or face up from your field. And then target a face-up card on the field. And if you do, and banish it. And if a 6 Samurai monster you control be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can banish the card from your grave instead, which is super cool. Then we play the best card in the extra deck besides Legendary 6 Samurai Xian, and that is 2 copies of Battle Shogun of the 6 Samurai. This card is insane, because what this card does is if this card is link summoned, you discard a card to add 1 card from your deck to your hand that has an effect that places Bushido counters on it, and you only use the effect of it once per turn. And then once per turn, each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal or special summoned to a zone this card points to, you get to put a Bushido counter on this card and gains 100 attack for each Bushido counter on it. That is ridiculous. You get to add Gateway to your hand. If you don't have if you already have Gateway, you can add Xian's Dojo, you can add the Temple, you can add whatever you want with this card. And that's why this card is really good, and it is always your first turn play. That's why I play a Kizan and a copy of 3 Kizan and 3 copies of Grandmaster, is because if you normal summon something, you special summon the Kizan or the Grandmaster side of the field, link them away, summon this card, and then discard a card, add the Gateway, and go off. 1 copy of Naturia Beast, just to negate the spells. 1 copy of Borreload Savage. The Borreload Savage is really good. It's not rare for me to go into, but I don't go into it all that often because you only go into this card with Fuma or Xian Squire plus a copy of one of your other monsters that you might be able to go into with like a copy of your what's his name? The Great Shogun Sheen is the one that you go into this card. You can actually, if you don't have this card and you don't want to go super expensive with this deck, you can change it out for Trishula, because you can go 2 Kizans plus a level 1 tuner into Trishula, which is super easy. I play 2 copies of Soryuja Skulldread. You can bump this up to 3 if you don't want to play the Savage. That's another option for you guys if you want to go that route. I just play 2 Soryuja because I think Soryuja at 2 is fine. I'm digging deep enough in the deck with 2. I don't need the 3rd one. 1 Appaloosa. Appaloosa is something you always end on, because if you end on an Appaloosa, then you've got negates to protect your Gateway. 1 Nightmare Unicorn just to bounce stuff. Phoenix to pop spells and traps. The newest addition is the Crystron Needle Fiber, just to special summon a Fuma or a Xian Squire from deck to be able to get it on the field. Now yes, you do have to use a Xian Squire or a Fuma on your side of the field to go into it, but basically it gets through the deck and digs in the deck a little bit deeper. And it not only digs into the deck a little bit deeper, but it also special summons another Legendary 6 Samurai to your side of the field, or Xian, which gets you those tokens, which is super nice. 1 copy of number 60, Timeless. This card lets you draw 2 or discard 1, or lets you double the attack of a monster, which can help you OTK. And then 1 copy of Levineer the Sea Dragon. Really helps out if you banish something, then you can just instantly get it back with this card, which is super nice to be able to do. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed this deck. It's a really fun deck. Basically, you're trying to get as many counters on the field as possible. I will show you a quick thing with this deck. Basically, what you want to get is the Battle Shogun on the field, which is extremely easy to do. If you just have a copy of your Kaigeki plus any other 6 Samurai monster, if you have Mizuho and a Shinai, if you have the Kizan plus any 6 Samurai, or the Grandmaster plus any 6 Samurai, you're going to go into this card. And then if you have the Gateway, you add the Gateway off of this card, which is this. And then if you have a Xian's Dojo, you're never going to run out of tokens. As long as you keep his link zones free, you're going to be putting 2 on this, 1 on this, and 1 on this every time you summon to a zone this card points to. You're never going to run out of tokens, and you're never going to be able to not have a monster on the field. So that's why this deck is ridiculous, and it works so well, is because of the Battle Shogun. The Battle Shogun made this deck absolutely crazy good. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, I don't know when, but this deck comes up as a meta deck again because of Gateway being at 1. I wouldn't also be surprised if they come out and do, I don't think they'll do an errata on Gateway. It's been around too long. But anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad. Definitely check out the other deck profiles that we have on the channel and see what you guys want. Definitely comment down below. And definitely check out the Patreon down in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.